Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have some stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. I'm not going to drag the intro out today, let's just jump right in. This story comes to us from Cockadoodle in my butt. You want to fix our working hours? Our contracts have something to say about that. Early last year, we had a new manager take over the department. He previously headed another IT department in Germany, but moved to Switzerland to take the role in ours. Our team is spread over Switzerland, Spain, and Mexico, with second line in Spain and Mexico, and third line in Switzerland and Spain. It was a few months before he started making changes, and they were mostly small. We had to record how much time we spent on tickets, provide weekly updates on our changes and projects, and our monthly department meeting became fortnightly. It meant a bit more bureaucracy here and there, but it was mostly fine, nothing excessive. But about 6 months in, he made a change that none of us really liked. While Switzerland and Spain are both in the same time zone, in reality, our times don't really line up. Employees in Switzerland will start at any time between 7 and 8:30, while Spain can start later than 9 o'clock. Lunch in Switzerland is often from 11:30 to 12:30, while Spain will wait until 1 o'clock or later. Home time in Switzerland ranges from 3:30 to 5:30, while the team in Spain will often be online until 6 p.m. This means that meetings between the third line teams usually take place between 9 a.m. to 11:30 and 2 to 6, about 4.5 hours a day. Outside of those times, you risk people not having started yet, having already gone home, or being out for lunch. This is what our new manager didn't like. While he couldn't really do much about the lunch times, he saw opportunity to align our start and end times. After reviewing people's calendars, he determined that enforcing a 6 to 5 working day would cause the least amount of disruption to our schedules. This would increase the number of hours where we're all available by 2 per day, or 10 per week. When he told us about the change, none of us were happy. Even those that wouldn't be impacted because it already aligned with their usual start and finish times were annoyed on behalf of those who would be impacted. When we asked why the change was being made, we were simply told it was about us all being online together more. Some people complained that it would impact out-of-work commitments, and we were told he would make allowances, but only temporarily. One guy said that he only takes a 30-minute lunch break, so this would mean he goes over his weekly hours. The manager said he would look into that. Then, an older member of the team asked if he had run it by HR. The manager said no, this isn't something he needs to run by HR. The same guy then asked if we would have to start recording our hours. The manager said no, this has nothing to do with recording hours. Turns out, the manager made a mistake here. You see, in Switzerland, by law, employees need to record their working hours, and employers need to retain records to ensure compliance with labor laws. There are, however, a few exceptions. Smaller companies can simply record the number of hours worked each day. Meanwhile, senior employees can be exempted from logging their hours if they meet a certain salary threshold, and their role allows for autonomy in the hours worked. All the engineers on the team based in Switzerland had signed this waiver. It wasn't uncommon for us to work 11 hours on one day and then 5 hours on the next. It wasn't uncommon for us to work 30 hours in one week, then 50 hours the next. We never recorded these hours. We never explicitly told our team leaders or manager. It was simply understood that some days or weeks would be busy, and as we managed our own time, we would make up for it later. We were trusted to manage our own time. And if we didn't sign the waiver to exclude us from logging our hours, it would create a mess for overtime, time off in lieu, etc. But one of the conditions for signing this waiver was that we were free to determine the majority of our working hours, which courts had clarified was defined as 50%. If we are contracted to work 40 hours a week, then our employer can fix 20 of those hours, and we can choose when to take the other 20. The manager had now fixed 100% of our hours. We were no longer eligible for the exemption granted to us. For us, we could continue working the dictated hours and, legally, we would be fine. But if someone reported our employer to the government, the company could be fined and potentially be forced to log all employees' working hours, or lose the ability to file working time waivers. Engineers couldn't work out of hours to perform maintenance and updates. The impact to the company could be huge. So the guy that asked the question went straight to HR and informed them of the manager's new policy. HR, recognizing the legal risk that such a policy could create for the company, went straight to the manager's director. The policy was put on hold later that day. On the Friday of the same week, another meeting was held. The manager apologized for not familiarizing himself with Swiss labor laws before implementing the policy, and instead decided to implement a new one, which would be legally compliant. Spain would continue with the 6 to 5 working hours. For Switzerland, 50% of our working hours would be fixed, 8 to 10 and 3 to 5. In short, the first and last 2 hours of the day were fixed, and we'd have to fill in the rest with our free hours. It was dubious at best. I look at my calendar for Monday and see I have a meeting at 11 and another one at 3. So I quickly ping a message to the two people on the 11 o'clock meeting. Then Monday comes around. At 6 o'clock, I log in and see two other members of the team I'd spoken to on Friday are logged in from home. I drop them a message to say hi. Our plans are to work until 10 and then log off until 11 when we have a meeting together with some of the team in Spain. Take a lunch from 11:30 to 1:30, then finish at 5. Two people arrive in the office at 7, having planned to take a 2-hour lunch break in the city. The rest of the team based in Switzerland, another 4 people, logged in at 8 o'clock and quickly hear what the other half of the team were doing. One was working from home, so wanted to be done as soon as possible, and one had an appointment at 5:30, so had to stick to the manager's implied schedule. But the other 2 that were in the office had free time that evening. At 11:30, they left the office, returning just before 3, having spent the afternoon on a boat sailing around Lake Zurich. At 5, they both left the office and clocked up the rest of their hours working from home. On Tuesday, the fixed hours for the teams in both Switzerland and Spain were scrapped. The manager left the department a few months later. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Cunius Maximus. It says, "Classic manager making changes for the sake of making changes and petting their own ego." Have you all noticed by chance that the vast majority of malicious compliance stories start out with a new manager taking over a department and just switching everything up without spending any time seeing how things actually work? It's like the dog that has to piss over everything just to mark their own territory. This manager comes in, makes all these changes, thinking they have the best ideas, but they literally have no idea what's going on. This story comes to us from "Cause I'm So Popular. Null encryption creates null company." My first post, and I still have PTSD about this job. This happened in 2001. I worked as an IT manager for Z Corp, a multi-level marketing company providing internet education and website hosting services. Mostly, we made money by selling you a $149 yearly program that automatically renews. The vast majority of the $149 was used to pay the people above you in your upline. We also taught you how to sign up people in your downline so you could make money. The important part is the annual renewal, which would have made millionaires out of a large number of people. At any rate, Z Corp was run by a father, daddy, and his sons, who were all former construction workers and lived a couple time zones later than me. They woke up and started the day by yelling at the person most likely to need a jump start. I typically worked 18-hour days, so sleep was precious. 5 a.m. phone calls with someone yelling at me were common. One fine morning at 5 a.m., Daddy calls to tell me the website is down. I stumble out of bed and drive to the data center, log on, and see the last person to modify the production files was his son, Richard. I call Daddy back and tell him his kid took down the site, then revert all the changes and delete Richard's access. Walking out of the data center, Daddy calls back that we can't process credit cards. I walk back in and check our connection to the credit card processor. Yep, it's down. So I call their customer support line, who tells me Richard called them several hours ago and violated the contract. Richard knows he screwed up bad, so he's turned off all his phones and moved into a hotel thinking no one would find him. A mad scramble to find a new processor happens, and we change over to using the new company. We were down for 2 days. No sales, no money, no payouts. Daddy calls our original processor and gets them to reinstate us as long as we sign a new contract. The new contract requires SSL to be enabled on the credit card pages, the little lock you see on every page, and credit card information is to be encrypted in the database. We have a team meeting to discuss implementation details. Our development team says it will take a full rewrite and months to change the software to encrypt the credit card information. I say we can implement a null encryption process in the database that doesn't require a software rewrite. Daddy is full on board with a quick solution and says do it. doesn't ask for details. I set up the database job and run the first update, manually verifying everything works correctly, and go back to fixing all the other stuff that broke. Daddy calls back to say the original credit card processor wants to audit our fixes before enabling our account again. I invite them to the data center to personally check the server. They ask about our innovative encryption solution. I say it's easier to show than describe. I run the test showing no credit card data is present. They ask to see the database code. Where credit card data present, set to null. It runs every night at midnight. Technically, I had null encrypted the data. That it was no longer accessible wasn't relevant. The audit passed and we were back in business. January 3rd, 2002, I had finally had enough of Z Corp. No raises, no overtime, no comp time, paychecks always late, no bonus, no sleep, etc. I reset my company phone and low-level formatted my computer and quit. 6 days later, the first annual renewal failed because credit card data was null. Z Corp closed their doors permanently not long after. OP added an update with a few more details down below. It says, update, removing the credit card data nightly kept the company in compliance with the credit card processor. When the annual renewal came due, there was no credit card data to process the renewal. In an SQL database, null is the absence of a value. A value is data, numbers, characters, images, spaces, etc. Technically, we were already using a null encryption scheme as there was no encryption. The encryption scheme was not set. FTC investigated Z Corp and handed out indictments. I left for other reasons. Mostly, I had found another job that didn't involve an angry person waking me up at 5 a.m. to clean up another mess. There was no one cross-trained for my job because I kept taking their punishment every day, and no one thought I would actually quit. Wiping my phone and computer was childish. An angry person had just vented at me. They were still yelling when my computer wiped and when I pulled the battery from my phone. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called DataScience45. It says, I want to know how Richard violated the contract. OP responded and said, Richard had a way with words, especially when he thought you were not as smart as him. The story I was told was he felt the required changes to our systems were excessive. When the development team confirmed that, he apparently told off the credit card processor and rage quit for the company. This action was one I was not privy to and heard about secondhand. The response from the credit card processor was quick and may have happened during the phone call. Another user down below with a name that if I read it out I would get cancelled said, this doesn't sound so much like malicious compliance as malicious destruction, but I'm not mad at anyone who comes at scammers. Just a point of semantic distinction. OP responded and said, maybe, maybe not. The consequences of the company not coming into compliance was no more credit card processing. So cease doing business right away, or worry about the consequences in the future. Reading this one and seeing that OP's working for one of those scam pyramid scheme companies made me wonder if OP felt the same way going into work every day like I did when I managed the payday loan store. Like I had to check my morals at the door and just dick people out of their money all day long. Yeah, I only stayed in that job for a year because I do have morals, and when you have to check them at the door every day, it's just not gonna work out. This story comes to us from Little B. Want me to clean up users on the portal? Done. You're deleted. I work in IT for a big company and manage a portal that a small group of people use daily. Manager wanted me to go through the list of users and remove anyone who didn't need access. Simple request, I reduced the list from 100 to 30 people. Everyone's happy. Couple weeks later, management is complaining that 30 users is too much and wanted me to create a list of all their names, what team they are a part of, who they report to, and how often they need access to this portal. Annoying request, but sure, I got it done. He goes through the list and gets mad when he sees names he doesn't recognize, even though our company has a couple thousand employees. So, he tells me to delete all users whose name he doesn't recognize. Stupid request, but okay, done. We are a global company, so immediately overnight I'm getting bombarded with emails that systems are down and no one has access to log into the system and fix it. My phones are going off, but F it, I don't get paid to work at 3 a.m. Next morning, my manager somehow gets mad at me for deleting the users he told me to delete and tells me to add them back. No crap, Sherlock. Couple weeks later, he again brings up that he's not happy and the system is not secure, Too many users have access. Blah blah blah. Like, bro, how bored are you? He wanted me to review the list of users with him again. 27 of the users use this system daily. There are only 3 users, himself and 2 other people, that are high up management that don't use the system at all, but are there for political reasons. He starts yelling at me, telling me to delete anyone who doesn't use the portal daily as a part of their core job, and anyone new who wants access must fill out a form and explain why they need it. Okay, fine, F it, done. Couple weeks pass by and he goes, "Hey, I think something's wrong with the system. I can't log in anymore." "Nope, it's working just fine." "Then why can't I log in?" "I removed all users who don't use it daily as part of their core job." Quoted my manager from weeks ago word by word. Add me back. I slide him the form he created. He stares at me. I smile at him. It's been weeks and he still hasn't filled out the form, and I still haven't added him back. We are somehow on good terms now. Right, this is the typical manager that engages in seagull management. Every once in a while they fly in, scream a lot, crap all over everything, and then leave. OP, you need to make sure you're documenting every single thing this manager tells you to do, even get them to send it to you in an email or something like that, because it sounds to me like they might be setting you up to take the blame when things don't work. This story comes to us from Small Human Being 8. My car is worth very little. Okay, prove it in great detail. My old car got into a very small bump that was just bad enough to crack something critical, which meant repairing it would just not be economical. My insurance people said they'd give me its market value, which according to them is $5,000. I did some research of my own, a big Excel spreadsheet was involved and lots of averaging, and found it was actually closer to $7,500. I didn't want to go full Karen on them from the start. I'm sure there's a logical, reasonable, compliant explanation. I just have to find it. It went on for weeks, y'all. I've shortened it a lot. I found car X worth $8,000 and car Y worth $6,000. How come there's still more than what you quoted me? We can't consider the first one, it's in a different state. In my country, this is like saying different astrology. But we will give you the price of the second one. They're both interstate. Why can you still consider the second one? Also, I've just noticed the second one has a worse odometer than mine. Are you saying a car in worse condition than mine is still worth more than what you quoted me? Look, it's a really good price. We didn't even take into account the delamination. Then by all means, take the delamination into account, as long as you can prove the price difference. I am actually begging you to throw the book at me and confound me with legal jargon. Give me something. They were silent for several days. Look, governing body says if I don't hear back within another 2 weeks, I'm allowed to file a complaint. I understand you're busy, so I'll make it 3. I've also made a complaint to your customer service department, making it clear I'm looking for either A, $7,500 according to my research, or B, a good reason why I should accept less. Receipts, laws, terms of service, paperwork, that sort of thing. If it takes a while to put together the facts, that's okay. Letting me know that's what you're doing is fine too. If I can't get any of what I've asked for, I will have to ask the governing body if they can help sort this out. They responded within 5 minutes, letting me know I was being transferred to a different rep. The new rep offered me all the hard facts I could have ever hoped for, and my $7,500, with a note that the price is only guaranteed if I don't go to that governing body. I wasn't planning on it now that I have my facts. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called MVC Jones. It says, insurance companies are 100% about paying out as little as possible versus a fair payout. I have them just below trial lawyer and members of Congress on my scale of integrity and honorability. Another commenter down below called Estrogen X said, I learned from my father, who was a former president of an insurance company, to say this to adjusters lowballing me. I don't feel indemnified by your offer. Meaning that you're not being financially returned to the position you were at before the loss, and to always counteroffer. You did good. OP responded and said, yay, thank you. Yeah, that's something we want to remember. Insurance companies want to give you as little as possible. They literally will get rewarded for how little they pay out and how quickly they close out the claims. They're just assuming that people need money right away and that you will take the low offer when they first give it to you. Never take that first offer, always negotiate, and make sure you know what you're talking about before you start those negotiations. Alright, I think we'll end this one here. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform. If you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really does help us out. I thank each and every one of you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.